Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode 44 of Elves, Rings, and Nerdy Things. I'm one of your co-hosts, Sean, with my other co-host, Sam. Sam, how are you?
I'm good. I apologize in advance for any degraded audio quality for this episode. I am recording remotely from an undisclosed location in the mountains of Idaho. I'm going native.
You are finally within a time zone of me.
Yes,
we have the 3-hour difference. This is only 1 hour now, so this is much better for you.
That's right. So don't get used to it, Sean, because we're only here for a week. It is nice to see you in the daylight and from not my dingy basement.
Before we record, can I complain about something?
We are already recording.
I mean, yeah, I meant like the...
I know what you mean now. Okay, yes.
Yeah. I know we're recording right now. I gave the intro, you ass. But I'm saying, before we start talking about The Witcher, can I complain about something? Because it was a realization that I had. I went to go see Boy Genius over the weekend, which was a great show. If you've never been to the Gorge in George, Washington, it is a fantastic venue overlooking the Columbia River. It's very, very cool. But on the way there and back, I had a realization, and I've kind of noticed this before, but it was really prevalent over the weekend. Washington drivers are horrible. And I've had the opportunity to live in Michigan and Idaho, and now here in Washington, where I'm spending a good chunk of time. You are horrible drivers if you listen to me in the state of Washington. The entire concept of keep right, pass left is non-existent. Normally on I-5.
That's a challenging concept for people in a lot of places, Michigan included. But it is one of the most frustrating driving sins that one can commit.
I've noticed on I-5, and then especially this weekend on I-90, going across to the other side of the state, when I wanted to go fast and actually pass people, and I'm not saying I don't go 10 over, 15 over, I go like 5 over the speed limit. The far left lane and the lanes closest to it, full of cars going about 70 miles per hour. 65. The right lane, supposedly the slow lane, is completely empty. There are absolutely no cars in the right lane. And I realized I hit a point where I was like, in my head, keep right, pass left. So I got into the right lane. I'm going about 75 with cruise on. I am passing just about everybody on the highway. And it makes absolutely no sense to me. And there's so many stories, like there's once a week where there's a story of there's a shooting on I-5 because of road rage.
And now you know why.
And now I know why, because people have guns. And then, yeah, it's insane to me. And yeah, I want people in Washington to know, even if only like 3 people in the state of Washington listen to us,
and all of them are transplants from the Midwest.
Probably. Just listen to me, please, and keep right, pass left. Because my blood pressure was so high on the drive home that I realized, like, in the car, I was like, I know why people get shot. Because people go 5 under the speed limit in the fast lane. And it's insane. And then the right lane is completely empty. So.
And then your finger starts itching and you're.
Oh, dude, there were times where Carly was sleeping on the way back, and if she wouldn't have been sleeping, I would have been yelling.
Every once in a while, there's a driver that is particularly aggravating, and Haley's usually there to rein me in with the things I would say to them if they were within earshot.
But it's just get over.
Yeah.
Why are you just putzing along in the fast lane? And there's signs everywhere that say keep right except to pass. Oh my God.
The Michigan State Police, I think every year in June, they enforce that law.
Just in June?
Actively. Well, yeah, I know. It should happen. It should be a year-round thing. It's very frustrating because it actually has a significant negative effect on everybody on the highway.
Well, and just in traffic in general. Like there's times where you'll be in a traffic jam and then all of a sudden it just opens up and there's nothing there. And I feel bad. And I don't know if I've complained about this, on our podcast before, but for me, it's like when I'm in bumper to bumper traffic, and I know it's bad and I shouldn't think this, but usually I'm thinking there better be an accident up here, because if it's traffic jam just because somebody was being an ass, I'm going to be so pissed off. And then you hit a point where, like, if you look at your Google Maps when you're driving your GPS, it'll be like red or orange on the road. And then all of a sudden you just hit a point and it's blue and it just opens. And it's those moments where I go, it's just because people are shitty drivers that there's a traffic jam right now. It's frustrating. So thanks for letting me vet. That was great. It was nice to get that off my chest.
You got to vent. Otherwise, it's going to get bottled up. And then one day you're rear-ending some old lady who doesn't even know what she's doing.
Or I get shot.
Or you get shot, maybe by an old lady. You never know. Grandma's back and eat. Okay, but the real reason that we are talking today is because the fifth episode in season 3 of The Witcher, season 3, volume 1, The Art of the Illusion.
The culminating episode, the climactic episode of the first volume.
Indeed. So we have I think this will be a relatively quick review. One, I've got a time constraint here, but two, we also have just really one plot line to discuss. We have no Ciri this episode. We have no Jaskier, no Radovid. Everything takes place within just a matter of 8 hours or less in one location. So let's go ahead and summarize. I don't know whose turn it is to summarize, but
I think I'll do it this time. Episode 5, The Art of Illusion. Once the banquet is over, Geralt and Yennefer discuss the night's events in retrospective. Despite his disdain, Geralt socializes with the reveling sorcerers as Yennefer reminds him they need to lie low in order to expose Stregobor during the following conclave. Their plans change, however, when Yennefer is alerted by Estrad and Triss about Stregobor's possession of the Book of Monoliths. Geralt and Estrad pretend to fight to cover for Yennefer as she breaks into Stregobor's study, where they discover the book, as well as the apparent evidence of kidnapping half-elven students. Stregobor is arrested by Tissaia, Vilgefortz, and Artorias, and the banquet is deemed a diplomatic success. Once Yennefer and Geralt put all the pieces of the night together, however, they realize the mastermind behind Rience's actions and the kidnappings is Vilgefortz, who only framed Stregobor. Scouting the halls to clear their path, Geralt is distracted by sounds of a distant fight and ambushed at knife point by Dijkstra. So again, like you said, it's one plot line pretty much, and all they do is tell the story and then retell the story over and over again from different points of view, relaying more information as they go along. Now, in terms of quality of episodes, I thought this was the best quality of the 5 so far. At least in volume 1, this was the highlight for me. I enjoyed the storytelling. I liked the murder mystery style of storytelling that they were going with. And every time they went back and released more information from a different viewpoint, I thought it was interesting to see how things connected. It was a very Knives Out approach to storytelling for this episode. Overall, I'd say a thumb up for me, not 2 thumbs up, but it was definitely serviceable. What did you think? General thoughts of this episode, Sam?
This one was good. Similar to you, I thought this was the highlight of volume 1. I think I had low expectations going into it based on how disappointing, frankly, the first 4 episodes were of the season. They did a good job putting together this episode, not without some blemishes, which we can talk about, but those were minimal. I think I sent you a short video that was critical of the non-linear storytelling, and in full disclosure, I sent that to you before I watched the episode because I knew what was going to happen anyway, just from having read the books. And
and full disclosure for me, I didn't read the article you sent me.
Well, there you go. It was basically contrasting this episode with non-linear storytelling done by Quentin Tarantino in Pulp Fiction and how he uses it to set up redemption. And this episode, it's not really a theme. I thought the non-linear storytelling was the most effective when they were using it to demonstrate how Yen and Geralt were developing, like furthering their understanding of the evening. And it
Mhm.
wasn't just, oh, this was Geralt's perspective and this was Yennefer's perspective, because we keep coming back to the frame of them discussing things. I thought it was best when it was used kind of at the very end, when they were coming to the realization that it was Vilgefortz and not Stregobor. That was kind of this. They did a really good job of kind of building the revelation. I think some of that stuff you could have introduced it a little bit earlier and it might have aided. But again, you said 1 thumbs up as opposed to 2. Similarly, good episode, not fantastic, but definitely the best of the season so far.
And to me, it's also going back to what made the first season of The Witcher good. I think some people were thrown off by the multiple plot lines and different timelines of season 1. And this episode to me was kind of reminiscent of that, of discovering information as you're watching and then tying things together, discovering things as the show wants you to discover them. That's how I felt about this episode. Yeah, I just thought it was interesting that the best episode of this first volume was pretty much a throwback to the entire first season, which is the best season by far of the show. So I don't know. It just seemed like they're tapping into something that reminded me of a good show. And when the show itself was good. So I think that made me like it more. But yeah, overall, like I said, 1 thumb up. Is there anything? Well, let's do what you didn't like.
Okay.
What jumped out to you that was a blemish for you?
Okay, so there were a few things. I think some of them are superficial, so we'll get those out of the way first. The musical troupe I find so annoying.
Seconded. They were awful.
Yeah, and the one song that they kept playing,
Nothing's as it seems.
Nothing's at it. Yeah, what you see is not what it is. Whatever it is, it's just a little too on the head.
All is not as it seems.
Yeah, and it was just, okay, thanks. The title of the episode is The Art of the Illusion. We're talking about magicians. We're talking about mysteries. Do you really need the band that just is hammering the audience over the head, telling them, don't believe what you see?
Yeah,
like, I thought a much better kind of example of the illusions and twists and things like that is the fight between Geralt and Istrid. I thought that was actually, a mystery within a mystery. The people in the room don't know what's happening, and then it's revealed to that was fun and enjoyable. The troupe was the opposite of that. I wish all of them had been eaten by the Ishna on the boat, and we would just be relieved of this, and maybe we could get Yaskier in this episode.
And unfortunately, none of them were eaten on the boat.
Yeah, maybe some of them will
concussed.
Yeah, they should have dragged them in and drowned them and eaten them, but we didn't get that.
Yeah, that song was definitely, yeah. I didn't realize how much it bothered me until you were just explaining why it bothered you. And then, yeah, it's just too beating you over the head with something that was already obvious. And nothing really jumped out to me that I was like, oh, I don't like this. Because I was intrigued the entire time. A couple of the things that I liked the most, I liked the interaction between Dijkstra and Geralt at the very beginning.
When Dijkstra calls him a prick, or labels him a prick when he walks away.
Yeah, well, because it's a good adaptation from the book relationship between the two. And Dijkstra, like, Geralt isn't buying what he's selling because he knows that Dijkstra's just being fake. Because he walks up to him and he's like, oh, it's so great to see another normal human non-sorcerer here. And he calls him his non-magical brother or something. And then Geralt just meets it with, all right, fuck you, Dijkstra, I'm out of here. And that's when he calls him a prick. But that was a good relationship. I liked that conversation. Sets up interactions later on. Geralt knowing Philippa and having a conversation with her. And then he even makes the comment, have caught any mice lately, in reference to her owl form. So it just relays how much Geralt knows about certain individuals.
Which
you forget that Geralt is very old at this point. So he's interacted with a lot of these people before. He may not have ever been to Aretuza and knows, I can't even remember the name of the oldest sorcerer there, the guy with the really wispy beard.
Oh yeah, the weasel looking guy.
Yeah,
I can't remember
super
either.
Old guy. But like, yeah, clearly Geralt doesn't know the ins and outs of Aretuza, but there are individuals within the Brotherhood that he knows pretty well.
So
And it's cool to see that with Philippa.
that is a good segue to a criticism I had. I mean, this episode was the highlight, and I'm looking at ways that this episode could have been even better and more effective. And I think if we had even more of an episode, even more of the show focused around the conclave when all the sources are together, Geralt being that fish out of water character would have been the perfect opportunity to set up more of who these people are and what their motivations are. So, for instance, Artorias is, I think we can agree, he's a very powerful, influential individual, but I have no idea what his standing is aside from disliking Yennefer. And I think one of the challenges is with the plot line in season 2 with Yennefer not killing Cahir and then going on the run is that that's such a drastic action that it's really easy for people to not trust her. And what I would like is if we understood more of the subtlety in the tension within the Brotherhood, because it's going to erupt in volume 2 into actual violence. But I feel like we spent a lot of time with certain members of the Brotherhood, but not enough to really get a sense of who are the parties within Aretuza, who are the people that are going to, like, is anybody actually siding, like vocally siding with Nilfgaard? So far, we don't have that. The only person who is, it's revealed that it's Vilgefortz is kind of on the side of Nilfgaard. So I actually would want more time here and then use Geralt as having some familiarity with these people, but not all the ins and outs. And that would be a great opportunity for him and Yennefer, just through dialogue and introductions, to get a better sense, so the audience can get a better sense of what are the dynamics at play.
And now that we know that Vilgefortz is the bad guy, can we talk about that heel turn at the end of the first season?
Yeah.
Like, they do the heel turn where he, at the Battle of Sodden, kills just one of his like mage sorcerers.
No idea who that person is.
And he could have saved him. Like, it makes no sense. But they wanted to show that he wasn't all good. And then the entire second season, they give you like nothing, no reason to think that he's bad. And then in the third season, they start hinting again that maybe he's a bad guy, because we have the bracelet. We have, oh God, there's another moment. I can't remember what it is. Oh yeah, the painting.
Yeah, which, like, it would have been great if some of these things could have been stretched out. Let me say this. I think what made this episode good is that things were happening, right? There was action, there was mysteries being resolved, the confrontation with Stregobor, all of these things coming together, and it was all heading in the same direction. And if there was just, you could have done some of this stuff over 2 episodes, and it would have given you an opportunity to build to it even more. And I felt like this episode was kind of just plopped in our laps to a certain extent. And it was really good, but come on, give me some more, get the reveal of Vilgefortz to have been built up even more. Because it kind of was rushed at the end, right? It was all in the one flashback. We're like, oh, the jewelry and the painting. And all of a sudden it's like, it's Vilgefortz, where you could have had little other pieces of information earlier in this season, in season 2. But yeah, you don't even need that heel turn in season 1.
Yeah, it just pissed me off, especially when you know where the show's going. And then they didn't really touch on it at all in season 2. And it just made this scene so anticlimactic when they're like, oh, it's not Stregobor, it's Vilgefortz. And it's like, okay, well, I could have told you based off of him killing one of his own men at the end of the first season. That was completely unnecessary. So
if they hadn't have done that, this reveal would have been
way more impactful,
more of a surprise to the audience. It was just a little too much, right? Like I think the bracelet and the earrings thing could have been done slightly better. There could have been some dialogue with Lydia with her being telepathic and whatnot. And so you could have had Geralt experiencing her, and he could come to the realization himself, oh, the woman with the funny voice. He could kind of knit those things together. The other challenge with this is it. I'm assuming that Vilgefortz is framing Stregobor to a certain extent.
Yeah, our recap says that.
It does say that. Okay,
Mhm.
which is, but then Stregobor also has his own motivations about with like the half elven girls, so it's a little muddled. Does that make sense? Like they use he has the jewelry in the safe, which they
Mhm.
use magic to kind of get a flashback to seeing Stregobor kind of attack the novices, but at the same time he only stole their jewelry and kind of yelled at them for being a half elf. He didn't abduct them, which we know. So that was just a little strange to me.
But also, why would he even need to frame Stregobor?
Yes, if
So, like, I guess I do have a problem with the episode. Now
yeah,
that I'm talking through it more, because it's like, why frame him when you're already at the point? It's like the night before you're about to like wreak havoc on the Brotherhood. So if the plan from the get go for Vilgefortz is after the ball tonight or whatever this masquerade party is, that's when the shit's going to go down. Why would you even need to frame Stregobor the night before
and in the books, Emir is trying to basically break apart the Brotherhood, correct?
and get Ciri?
And get Ciri, yes. And
And so is Dijkstra.
and well, Dijkstra doesn't. I think for Dijkstra and Philippa, it's less about breaking up the Brotherhood as it is to purging the pro Nilfgaard mages,
So
right?
this is kind of a plug your ears if you don't want to hear a brief spoiler for like the next episode, for episode 6. But the fighting that Geralt hears at the end of this episode is a mixture of Brotherhood, sorcerers. In the books, it's also Scoia'tael and Cahir.
I think we're gonna get that.
I think we're going to get that. And then it's also Dijkstra and Redanian soldiers. It's like it's a hodgepodge of a bunch of shit going on.
But so, and going back to the whole thing of we could have had more time here on Aretuza. If I recall correctly, Stregobor and Vilgefortz were on different sides of the debate in season 1 about sending mages to Sodden to stop Nilfgaard, where Vilgefortz was for it, and then he had his heel turn at the end of that episode, and Stregobor was against it. So you could have, it would have been potentially more effective if we know Vilgefortz now is this anti-Brotherhood or pro-Nilfgaard operator to kind of manipulate Stregobor into opposing the unity of the Brotherhood against Nilfgaard, which he, like Stregobor, kind of changed his position over from season 1, where we saw him vocally against it, to season 3, where he was complaining about how Yennefer destroyed the chance at unity. So that was the role.
And
I
he
think,
hates Nilfgaard because they're supporting the elves.
and that. So it's like, again, we need a little bit more time on Aretuza, or again with Geralt as the fish out of water, to put all of these pieces in their proper context, so that the reveal of Vilgefortz, the stuff with Stregobor, hit a little harder. Because as it was cool. Like, yep, we got a fun reveal. They use the nonlinear storytelling effectively to do it, but it's one of those things where you start, like right now, you start asking a couple of questions and things start to fray a little bit.
Yeah, things unravel. And again, best episode of the season 3, volume 1. But yeah, as we're talking about it, we're uncovering things that it turns out that I was able to overlook in the first watch through.
Yeah, I mean, to be frank though, it is a testament to the creators of this episode specifically that some of these things did not occur to you, or did not occur to one during the initial watch, because it was effective. The storytelling of this episode was effective. Even the stuff with Triss and Istrid, like all of a sudden that, like, they get injected, and it I don't quite understand why they got this sense of urgency, because they learned that Stregobor had this book in his vault. But I like the fact that they joined forces with Yen and Geralt to confront Stregobor. I like that, But it's like, why did all of a sudden, like, why right now tonight did they get a sense of urgency when these novices have been disappearing for months? And I don't quite buy the whole he's using the book to banish them to a different sphere type explanation. It's like, that's just, I guess we have to take Istrid's word for it that he knows what's in this book despite the fact that he's never read it. Anyway.
Note, episodes 5 and 6 have the same director. So that leads me to hope that episode 6 will be also good. Not great, but at least good. And when you look through season 3, it's like every episode has a new lead writer on the Wikipedia page that I'm guessing that there's a group of writers, but there's like an individual writer that focuses on each episode. And I mean, we've been harping on the writing of this show for so long that there seems to not be a coherent like story or message that's being told. And I'm hoping at least with the continuity of a good episode from the same director going in from episode 5 to episode 6, that will at least have good direction. But
yeah, that's gonna be, that'll be critical because we're gonna get some good fight scenes in this, lots of moving parts, and so the director is really gonna have to make sure that we as the audience understand who's doing what, where, and how it all fits together. Hopefully we won't overly rely on the dialogue, because really it's, we have the rock has been pushed to the top of the hill with this episode, and you said it earlier, like this is the climax, and now it's going to be rapidly coming down the hill, and these things are going to start resolving. So we're going to be strap in for the ride for the rest of the season. Things are going to be pretty intense.
For the final episodes of Henry Cavill as Geralt of Rivia,
and this might be the final episodes of The Witcher. There have been multiple stories earlier or today about how Netflix has halted production. Well, the immediate explanation is the writer's strike.
Yeah.
But the speculation is that with the significant decline in the audience and the ratings, the departure of Henry Cavill, this might just be the plug. They're them pulling the plug.
And talk about a shame. We've had Henry Cavill as Superman used woefully. We've had Henry Cavill as Geralt of Rivia used woefully. I just really hope that the behind the scenes team for his future Warhammer show, whatever that's going to be on Max, I think it was going to be on.
Okay.
I just hope that they do him justice on his third try at like a major franchise. And there was talk of the man from Uncle.
Yeah.
Played
that movie was a ton of fun.
Yeah. And there was talk of that trying to be like the next James Bond spinoff type thing, like Mission Impossible. But then nothing ever came from it. And they never pursued any other sequels to that movie.
Well, one of the issues with that is because his co-star was Armie Hammer.
Oh shit. That's
who
right.
is one like box office poison. No movie he's ever been in has been successful, with the exception of Call Me by Your Name, which I don't think they're going to build a cinematic universe out of that.
Well, and the Facebook movie. Wasn't he?
Oh yeah, he was. But I mean, he was the twins, right? The whatever twins. So aside from those two things, Armie Hammer has not been able to put together much of a strong filmography. And then there's the accusations that he's a cannibal. So
yeah, didn't I? Again, this is like a social media clickbaity article that I think I saw. He's like selling timeshares somewhere now.
Oh, that I don't know.
Like he's out of acting and he's just selling timeshares. I don't know.
He might be. Funny story. Haley and I randomly watched an episode of Arrested Development season 2. So this is something he's in it. He's high school kid number 2 or something like that. He has one line where I think he says like, it's the episode where George Michael is running for class president. Mm-hmm. And he puts the like campaign ad in, and it's actually just a clip of him doing the Star Wars kid lightsaber routine.
Yep.
So afterward, George Michael is sitting by himself, and he's dejected because he lost, and Ann Veal is there trying to cheer him up, and then Armie Hammer walks by. He's like, "Hey, Star Wars kid," that's his line, and that's it. But he's in the episode anyway. we're far off topic from The Witcher.
Well, let me just say my last comment on volume 1 is, if this show goes down, I mean, it's only been 10 years since the Harry Potter movies were done, and we already have a reboot of Harry Potter coming out on Max. Talk about a series that could use redemption in a reboot. I mean, even if they adapted the video games as well and made it like a full-fledged series and took more than 8 episodes per season to adapt a full book, I think that to me is the biggest hang up of the show so far. For some reason, and we've said this in the past in other episodes, for some reason the showrunners decided each season was going to be 8 episodes, and they tied their hands and had to shorten things. Things don't make sense, and you have a full book that they're forcing into 8 episodes, and then it's just doing damage to everything else. So yeah, I don't know. That's my post-mortem at this point of this season. And we still have 3 episodes to go, but I'm looking at what they still have to cover. And I'm like, God damn, like, you're going to fit all of that into 3 episodes? And then like the books only get longer, man.
Yeah. More, I mean, I've been thinking about, cause I love the Baptism of Fire book.
Yeah.
Or because it's an adventure story. It's a goes on a journey, assembles a posse. Like they have their, there's confrontation, there's heroic action, there's all this stuff. And then you flash back and forth between Geralt and Ciri. Yennefer is in like 1 chapter of that because of what happens during the coming confrontation at Aretuza. They've been very clear that Yennefer is, if not a main character, she's the main character, because so much of this has kind of revolved around her and her backstory as opposed to The Witcher. So I think just fundamentally the vision that the showrunners had and that the writers put into fruition when they created the show, it was never designed to be a strong adaptation of the books. And I think we could probably, if this in fact is the swan song of The Witcher on Netflix, we can do a thorough post-mortem when appropriate.
Yeah, because book 5, Lady of the Lake, I think that's book 5.
Yeah,
is like 2.5, 3 times longer than the first and second books of the series. And those were 8 episodes that they did very poorly. So who knows what Lady of the Lake season is going to look like when they try to adapt it into 8 episodes, if they even get that far.
I don't think they'll get that far. I mean, if they make it out of season 3 and they get a season 4, one of two. If they get a season 4 with the same team in charge, I don't see a season 5 coming down. Again, you're losing your only star power. There has been the precipitous decline of the audience, and we'll see how many people watch all 8 episodes of this series compared to season 1. And generally speaking, you want to gain viewers as you progress through the season and not lose viewers. We already saw that narrative unfold with The Rings of Power compared to House of the Dragon, which actually gained followers, gained audience members. I don't know. And I think the economics in Hollywood have changed significantly, where Netflix is not going to have a ton of money to just throw around. You just see story after story of shows going way over budget. And I think you're kind of getting there was a perfect storm for, these bloated productions that 0 people could watch and they'd still get renewed. And those conditions are not around anymore.
The times, they are a-changing.
Indeed.
Well, let's call it there. I'm done talking
to
you. I don't feel like talking to you anymore. Have fun in your mountains of Idaho.
I will. Stay off the roads.
I have Ren Fair. Washington Ren Fair is coming up.
Awesome.
The next 3 weekends. So yay for me.
All right. Well, stay hydrated. Get plenty of shade.
Yeah, I'll do my best.
All right, Sean. Good talking to you. I'm glad that we had a good episode to talk about, and let's do it again next week and talk about the second half of season 3.
I'm on my way right now to watch episode 1 of volume 2 of season 3 of The Witcher. Bye, everybody.
All right. Bye.